Today I want to use 3 different stencil techniques to create 3 different cards. And so I have all of these stencils from the Crafty Stamp Co shop, and several of these stencils are from the new release, and then some are older stencils from the shop. So as I use the stencils today, I will let you know what the names of those stencils are. Well, welcome to my channel, Making Crafts, and I hope that you find some inspiration here today. If you do, be sure to hit the like button, and if you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe. So I'm flipping through this paper pad. It's one of the paper pads from the Crafty Stamp Co, and it is my inspiration today for my colors. So I'm going to try and match those colors with my first card. So we'll see how that works out. So I purchased some Astro Paste, Simon Hurley Astro Paste, several months ago. I haven't really played with it, so I thought that it would be very pretty on these Mermaid stencils or these Mermaid scales. And this stencil is called Mermaid Tails. So I will link below to the Crafty Stamp Co shop, and I will try to put a list of all of the products that I do use. So I'm just going to start out experimenting actually. So this piece is just going to be an experiment piece. I am just going to stencil in using the Astro Paste, and you can see over to the side I have some gold glitter. So my thoughts for this experiment today is to add some gold glitter to this paste so that it matches that paper that I previously showed you. So I'm just going to play around with it at first just to see how it works out. And so I'm just smoothing the paste in, and like I said, this is really my first time using it, so I'm just testing it to see how I need to smooth the paste in. And I can see that I'm not getting it totally filled in, and so I probably should have either added a little bit more paste or when I started out, or maybe use something different, but it's working out. I'm just filling it in as I go. It really doesn't take a lot of paste, but I wasn't sure how much paste it actually took. And it's very gritty. If you've never used this paste, it's a very gritty filling. It's not smooth. It has, I guess it has some sort of glitter in it too. So it doesn't just glide on as smooth as others, but I really love the looks of it. I love how it has that glittery look to it. So now I just want to come in and add a little bit more glitter using the gold glitter. And I know a lot of people do not like to use glitter because it makes such a mess, but honestly, the way I did it today, it did not make a lot of mess. So I just want to use some, and I figured I can pull up my vacuum if it does. So for this first experiment, I'm just sprinkling it on just to see how it looks, and then I'm just going to come back with my spatula and I'm just going to try to press it down. But first I'm making sure that my spatula is really clean, and I don't want to get any glitter in the paste, so I'm just going to, cover it up real quick, and then I'm just going to use the spatula to press that glitter in. And so you can see I'm just pressing around, trying to see if I can press it in. And my experiment is to see when it dries, will this glitter come off, or will it stay? So I really love how that looks, but now I realize I should have made it a little wider if I'm going to use that as a background on my card. So, but like I said, that was just an experiment, and I am using just a basic 110-pound cardstock, and this is just the cardstock that I buy from Walmart. It's just a basic brand from Walmart. I like using it for a lot of different projects because I think it works great as card bases, but it also works great for mixed media type projects like this that you don't need any specialty paper. I use it a lot, and it's not as expensive as some of your specialty paper. I'm a little bit of a cheapskate sometimes, so if I can use something cheaper and it works, I'm going to, rather than waste my money on the more expensive stuff. And I just I like to spend more money on the expensive stuff that's going to really be worth it. Hopefully that makes sense. So but this paper always works good for me, so that's why I use it. So here you can see that for the second one, I'm just filling in enough that it's going to be at least, I'll have to trim it down, but I want it to be at least 4 by 5 1/4 so that it can be a normal card front. And so the second try using this Astro Paste really looks even better. You can see that my scales are filled in a lot better. And so I'm finally getting the kind of in my groove of using this paste. So this time I've decided, instead of sprinkling so much gold glitter on, I'm just going to put a little bit in my hands, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over the scales. Now, this glitter, I have no idea where it came from. It's in this little baggie, so I'm thinking that, I know it's a very fine glitter, and I'm thinking my husband probably gave me a little bit from the wood shop. We used to make wedding signs, and so this was probably just a little sample bag he gave me to use in my craft room. So, but if it is, then it's just a very fine, ultra fine glitter. And so once again, I'm still experimenting because I'm wondering, once this dries, will all of this glitter rub off? Which, like I said, the Astro Paste has a little glittery look to it anyway, but I was just adding the gold glitter because I wanted to kind of go with the theme of that paper. There's so much gold in that paper that I wanted to try and add gold to these scales and to the stencil. So I just keep coming back and adding more glitter until I get it exactly like I think I want it. Because you can see here, when I lift this up, some of this glitter is probably going to be on the stencil itself. So I'm just going to clean off my spatula. I'm going to close up my Astro Paste because I don't know how quickly that Astro Paste dries out, but I also don't want to get the gold glitter in it because I don't always want gold glitter for every project. So for this one now, I'm just going to press down, and when I do, it's kind of crunchy, but I'm just going to press down and just kind of firmly, but I'm not going to do it so that it oozes out. I don't want my paste to ooze anywhere. So I'm just pressing, trying to get that fine glitter down into my Astro Paste. Once I am happy and I feel like I've got it all pushed in, then I'm just going to swipe just a little bit, but I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to remove too much of the paste by doing this. You easily can remove some of the paste if you're not careful. And I'm just going to peel it back, and that's absolutely gorgeous. I love the looks of that. So I'm really hoping that it sticks. So I did go ahead and set the scales aside, and I took my stencil to the sink and washed it immediately because on the back of the bottle of the Astro Paste, it says to wash your stencil before it dries. So I took and washed my stencil with a little bit of dish detergent and water, and now I've come back. It's been drying for a little bit, but it's not dry yet. It's still very wet, but I just want to give you a close-up of what it's looking like. And so here is the mermaid I plan to use on the front of it. So now I'm realizing that the mermaid doesn't match the one that I've colored in, and none of the paper matches. It doesn't even match the paper that I wanted to use. So while it's drying, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp out and create another mermaid. So that is from the Find Friends stamp set. So I've gone ahead and I stamped them out, colored them in, and then I also had some other little Ocean Friends, the Ocean Friends stamp set. I'd already colored in some of those little characters, so I've gone ahead and laid those aside. And then I went ahead, and since the Astro Paste did not match the paper that I showed you at the beginning, and then what I did was I just pulled out the gold glitter paper from that paper pack to use as a background as well. And so now I've stamped your Mertastic. That's really hard for me to say, but I went ahead and stamped that from the Find Friends stamp set as well. And then I'm just heat embossing it with some fine gold embossing powder. So you can see up there in the upper right, I have one that says Your Mertastic, but for that one I had used a chunkier embossing glitter or embossing powder, and so I just didn't like how that looked. So I decided to try the finer gold, and I like that a lot better. And so this gold piece of paper is from the Seashells and Seahorses paper pack that I showed you at the beginning. So I thought that gold went really well with the gold in the mermaid scales. And I forgot to tell you, so I'm skipping around a little bit. I sped this up a bit because we have 3 cards to make. But once the mermaid scales were dry, the glitter stayed on. When I rubbed my hand over it, nothing came off because I didn't want to give somebody a card and the glitter come off on them. But I rubbed my hand across it once it was good and dry, and nothing came off. So I don't know if the pressing it in is what really helped, or if it would have just stuck either way. But I would say if you're going to try this, press it down in it like I did so that it has a chance to stay. Now I did set it aside to dry for a while, but then I came back with my heat tool and finished the drying because I was impatient. But I really love how it looks, and so I'm just layering up, like I said, the Find Friends little mermaid, and then the little Ocean Friends octopus, and then the little fish is actually from the Find Friends stamp set as well. And so I'm just going to add that to a piece of black cardstock, and that is my finished card. I really love how this one turned out. I love that gold glitter. I think that the little border of gold paper behind it really picks up that gold glitter. So I'm thrilled how this card turned out. I really love this technique and I'm having so much fun with Astro Paste. I can't wait to give it another try. For my next card, I'm going to be using the Bubbles stencil. And for this one, we're going to do a little bit of ink blending and then some dry embossing. So I'm going to start out first. I've just chosen what's in my stash. I'm using some distressed inks, but I'm using 2 of the blues that I have and then 1 of the greens. But I'm just choosing the colors that using what I have because I don't have a lot of distressed inks. So these were the 3 colors I had. And so I'm trying to create kind of an ocean theme to this background. So I'm going to start out with the darker blue at the bottom, and then I'm going to add a lighter blue above that, trying to blend them together, but not really having to, I'm not adding a lot of ink to my paper yet because we're going to come back and we're doing quite a few things with this one. So I just want to get some of the color down onto my paper. And so once I have the light blue like I like it, then I'm going to blend in some of the lighter green on top of the blue, or above the blue, not on top of it, really above, and just kind of blending in with the top edge of that lighter blue. And I'm just doing a thin blending line of the green. And then I'm coming in, and I didn't have any yellow distressed ink, so I'm just going to come in with using what I have. And so this is some water-based water-based ink. So I'm going to just use that. It's a yellow ink that I have that I'm going to use to blend across the top. So I'm using ink that's not permanent. It's more water-based, so they'll react to water because I want to add a little bit of water to this in a moment. So I'm just going to get a good coverage of the yellow at the top of my paper. And I'm just using the 110-pound cardstock paper like I used in the previous card. And so I have cut this one a little bit too large, so I will come back and trim it down later. But I'm going to come in now with the sun rays or rays of sun stencil. I will list all of this below. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay the stencil down, and I'm just going to come back with that yellow again, filling in the stencil just to add a little bit darker lines across the top of the paper. Just some sun rays going across the paper. Because this doesn't have to be precise. Well, for me it didn't, because I'm just trying to get a little bit of background, a little bit of texture going. So there you can see that there's a little bit of sun rays. And so now I'm just going to use a little bit of water onto the ink. I'm not spraying it because I don't want to have too much, but I'm just adding a little bit of water to my hands and then flicking it onto the background just to add a bit more texture to this background as well. And then I'll just try to blot it up with my paper towel. It's hard to see on camera with the blue, but you can see with the yellow it does pick up a lot of the ink. I may have picked up a little bit too much ink on that yellow, but we will see as we go along. I'm going to keep trying and see how this turns out. Once again, this is just another experiment today. I'm trying something different with this background I have never tried. So what I want to do is I want to bring the stencil in, and I want to use the stencil in place of an embossing folder. So I want to emboss using the stencil. I've never tried this before, but I've seen others do it, so I thought I would give it a try. So I'm just layering this up how you're supposed to for a Spellbinders. Each machine is different. You may have to give it a test. But the great thing about Spellbinders, they come with this little rubbery mat, and that's what helps you get this impression. So if you have a Spellbinders, this is going to be very simple to do. If you don't, you may have to look. If yours didn't come with this rubbery mat, then you may have to look and see if you can buy one for it. But you can see here, look how pretty that is. I'm going to trim that top off there, but I love how it embossed the bubbles. So now what I want to do is I want you to be able to see those bubbles more. So I'm going to come back with the same inks that I used before. I'm just going to lightly blend those across my paper. I'm not going to press hard because I don't want to press out this texture. I'm just trying to lightly pick up those bubbles so that they show up more. And so I'm just going to start out with the dark blue, and then I'll do the light blue and the green as I go through the paper, just like we did before. And then I'll also come across with the yellow as well. And as you can see, as I'm doing this, you can see that the bubbles do show up a lot more, and it adds more texture to that background. And there you can see all of those bubbles are popping up. So then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on a banner. And I'm using the sentiment from the Positive Tate's Ocean Adventures stamp set. I'm also going to be using the images from that stamp set today as well. And I'm going to heat emboss my sentiment again, just using some clear embossing powder. I think the embossing powder really helps the sentiment to pop. And so then I'm just going to trim off the end of the banner, and then let's go ahead and layer up this card. So for this card, I've gone ahead and I'm using the little Tate that's on the float, and then I'm also going to use the little snorkeling Tate as well as the little fish from the Ocean Friends stamp set. So last month this was the new release, and so I just really had a lot of fun coloring in all of these stamps. So I thought that's what inspired today's cards. I thought, why not use those on some cards? So that is what is inspiring these cards today. So I'm going to layer this background piece. I've gone ahead and cut it down to, I think, 3 3/4 by 5, I do believe, and then I cut the other background piece to 4 by 5 1/4. And so that background piece, I'm just inking because you can see the white edges where I cut the paper. And that is from the Shark Bait paper. It's a 6x6 paper pad in the Crafty Stamp Co shop. Once again, I'll list all that below. And then I'm just going to layer that onto a white card base. And so then I'm just going to bring in all of my little images and put them on my background. So the little floating guy, I'm going to put him on the top of the water, laying in the sun, drinking his little juice and chilling. And then I'm also going to bring the little fish in and put the fish inside under the water. And then the little snorkeler will be beside the fish. He is just checking out what all is under the water. And I think these images are so adorable. I think they're called Tates. So I'm assuming they're potatoes. I didn't ask her, but I did assume that. I hope I didn't assume wrong. But, and I just absolutely love the little taters. So I think they're very adorable. And they were a lot of fun to color in. So I'm just going to layer all that up, and then I'm just also going to add my sentiment to the top edge there, and then we'll have our card completed. Now, in hindsight, when I'm looking back at this card, the guy on the float, I should have ink blended some blue in the white space underneath there. Instead of just using alcohol marker, I should have used the blue that I was using on my card. I think that probably would have blended a little better, but I still think the card is adorable, so I think it'll still be a very giveable card. I don't think that I have to not give it because of that. I think it's still very cute. So this is our completed card. Hopefully you can see all of that texture in the background that those bubbles created. I really love how this looks. This is actually something really new for me. I've never tried this embossing technique, so I'm excited to try that with a lot more stencils. So for the next card, I have pulled out my grip mat, and I'm going to be using the Pool Water Stencil as well as the Ink Splat Stencil. And for this one, I wanted to use my grip mat so nothing moves, since I have small space that I want to stencil in. So I'm also using the same 110-pound white cardstock for this one. And I'm going to take and layer my pool stencil down first, and then I'm going to layer my Ink Splat Stencil on top of the pool stencil. Now, I tried this earlier and made a mistake, and I went off the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some washi tape just to tape around the edges so that I'm sure I don't get on the rest of my cardstock. And I'm just picking out some really inexpensive washi tape so that it will easily release from the cardstock and not tear my paper. I'm just going to add it to the top of my stencil as well as onto the right hand side. And then I'll add it down here at the bottom corner as well, so that I make sure I don't get any ink anywhere I don't want it. So then I've gone ahead and looked through my inks. I'm using what I have, and I found some blue ink that I think will work for this idea. And so for this one, I'm just wanting to stencil in the ink splat shape. So that's why I'm layering my stencils this way, so that we can get that ink splat shape with our stencil behind it. So I'm just adding the blue ink to the bottom portion of the ink splat, and then I'm just going to gently raise it up, and I'm going to remove the pull stencil, and then I'm going to bring the washi tape back and just tape off my stencil again. And then I'm going to bring the blue ink back in, and I'm just going to lightly blend it in so that we fill in the white spaces between the pool water that we stenciled. I want it to look like water, but with all that white, it's not as much water, so I could have ink blended the blue first and then added the pool water stencil, but this way was easiest for me to do. So then I'm going to bring in some of that yellow ink that I used on the previous card, and I'm just going to ink in the top of that ink splat. So you can see up there at the top where it's white, I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow ink there for our sunshine. And then I will just pull up my ink splat stencil and see how it looks. I want to be really gentle so that I don't tear my paper with the washi tape. And so there is our scene. So I've jumped a bit ahead. I went ahead and trimmed this piece down to a tag size piece. And then what I've done is I'm just clipping the corners with my corner punch. You could do that with scissors. I just find this punch to makes it so much easier. So I'm going to be using the Positive Tate stamp set for this card as well. So I'm using the Little Mermaid, and then I'm going to bring in the Fiend Friends sentiment, which is your Mertastic. So I have to really say that slowly to get that out. But I'm just going to add that to the bottom corner of this tag, and I'm going to just use clear embossing ink, and then I will emboss this with gold embossing powder. Then I'm just going to layer this tag onto a larger tag, and I'm just using the blue glitter paper from the Seashells and Seahorse paper pad. And what I've done is just cut this piece just a little bit larger than my tag, about 1/4 inch larger, so that it gives it a little bit of a border. It gives about 1/8 inch border. I may have done it a little smaller than that, just so I could have a little bit of border. And then I'm just going to pop that up with foam dots, and I'm adding that to the Seashell and Seahorse paper as well. I'm then going to add the Little Mermaid to this scene, to the little water scene. I'm just going to glue the mermaid down this time since I've already popped up the tag. I don't want to add any more dimensions, so I'm just going to glue her down to the tag. And then I've gone ahead and added some blue cardstock behind the seashell paper, and then I'm just going to add that to a white card base. And so I got a little bit of ink in the bottom corner here in front above the Your Mertastic sentiment. So I'm just going to add a few little gold sequins here to cover that up. I think I had ink on my fingers or ink laying somewhere on my desk, and it just made a little splotch here and there. So I'm just going to add these and cover it up, and I think that will add to the card as well. I love to add sequins or pearls to the front of my card anyway, so I think this added to the card. So here are my completed cards. I really loved playing with stencils today. I never take time to play with them like I should, and I want to get into creating more backgrounds with stencils. Well, I hope this has inspired you to get out your stencils and use them today to create some backgrounds and try some different techniques. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more from me, be sure to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.